All right, guys. Sorry about that. Running a little behind today. We had some technical malfunctions, so we were just trying to get that ironed out here on our end. So I apologize for keeping you guys waiting. Luckily, only a couple minutes late, so we still have plenty of time to get through this awesome webinar on the Outlook Sync, get you guys familiar with what it's going to do and how it's going to work. So we just have a short little presentation as far as the PowerPoint is concerned before we jump in. This one's going to go pretty quick, so please feel free to send in your questions to our inbox if anything does not get covered that you have or anything like that. We do have questions inside the webinar as well, so go ahead and type those in as we get through them, and I'll be more than happy to address those as we get through. So, Free Training Thursday, the OfficeTools Outlook Sync, and we're going to be discussing this, kind of the premise behind it, why we have it, how it's going to be used, and the different components of the sync tool itself, and kind of what to expect when it comes to it. So basically, kind of what I just said, 3 points that we're going to cover today. Why do we sync with Outlook? Why do we build the sync? Why does the sync tool exist? What is the point of it? The 4 components of the Outlook sync, and the do's and don'ts when it comes to the sync tool itself. Now, I'm not connected to an actual Outlook account right now, just part of our technical problems, but we will be able to see the sync tool. We'll be able to see how to set it up, how it connects, and to make sure that everything is good. Just for future reference, if you do have any questions past this webinar on any topic, including the Outlook Sync, please do feel free to email us at training@officetools.com. We'll be more than happy to get those questions answered that come up and make sure that you guys are getting taken care of. So any questions, comments, concerns that you guys have, please feel free to email us at training@officetools.com. Anything else that you guys need, any support, any technical issues that are coming up or anything like that, please do visit us at abacusnext.com/support. And then for your upcoming webinars, to make sure that you guys are getting in on the new topics, that you guys are sitting in on anything upcoming that you guys are interested in. And also to go on there and look at anything that we have already recorded. Please do go to abacusnext.com/webinars and get involved in what we have going on there. Make sure that you guys can access the pre-recorded stuff as well as any upcoming webinars. You guys can go ahead and sign up with that. All right, so let's get out of that PowerPoint and then let's jump into the sync tool. So first and foremost, why do we sync with Outlook? What is the point of the sync? Why did OfficeTools create the sync? And kind of what are your expectations behind the integration? So number one, the main reason why we created the Outlook sync to begin with is because OfficeTools wasn't developing a mobile application. We weren't thinking about that. We were trying to go with getting the software itself up to speed and make sure that was as clean cut as possible. And so what we did instead is we built a connection with a program that already had the capability of connecting to your mobile phone. Now, that being said, we are developing a mobile application. It is in development right now, and it should be released pretty soon. So this Outlook sync at some point may become obsolete. But right now, it is your best option to connect your OfficeTools software to your mobile application. Okay. That being said, with that, the expectation a lot of times is when it comes down to it, that we are the people who are managing the connection between OfficeTools and your phone. Okay? And that's not the case. We are simply managing the information push from OfficeTools to the local Outlook program. Then from there, it's up to you/your IT to get it from Outlook to your phone. There are some calls that come in to support about the syncing between Outlook and the phone, and that is not technically the OfficeTools component. The component that we are managing is the data push from OfficeTools to the local Outlook program on your computer. Okay? The sync to your phone is something that you have to manage on your own. So that's kind of the reasons behind the Outlook sync. Now, there are 4 different components, and we're going to start going through these and getting you guys up to speed on what these do. But really, when it boils down to it, there are priorities here, and there are certain things as far as best practices go that we would recommend that you do and recommend that you don't do. And we'll kind of get into that when we talk about the do's and don'ts. But first, I want to give you guys a background on these 4 components that you guys see up on the screen. Okay. Number 1, when it first comes down to it, before we get into contacts, tasks, schedule, and mail, a lot of people don't even know how to get the Outlook sync open. Okay. And this is kind of a strange thing because, you know, most people think it's relatively straightforward. But when it comes down to it, sometimes it's kind of hard to get it open. And the way that you can open the sync when it's not, you're double clicking on the icon on the desktop and it's not opening up, you can come down here to your system tray, right next to your clock in the bottom right hand corner of your screen in most cases. And it says show hidden icons. You can open that up and you'll be able to find the sync tool right there. And in order to get this screen open that I have, you would be able to go ahead and click on that Outlook sync icon and then open the control panel. And that's this. This is the control panel. So if you're trying to get the sync tool open and you're clicking manically on the icon on the desktop and getting frustrated to no end because the Outlook sync is not coming up, or it keeps telling you that the version of Outlook is already running, the way to open it is actually from your system tray down here at the bottom. Click on the Outlook sync icon, which is the 2 yellow arrows, and then open control panel. And that should get you to this point. Okay. So just a little bit of a tidbit there, just in case you guys were wondering. Now, we're going to start with contacts and work our way down to mail import. So the contacts option here allows you to sync the OfficeTools contacts to your Outlook contact list. If any of you guys have ever sat in on any sort of training when it comes to integration, whether it be with our Lacert integration, our Outlook integration, QuickBooks integration, any other integration that we have, you will have probably been told that OfficeTools should be your centralized hub, meaning you should be keying in a majority, if not all, of your data into OfficeTools first. This is not an exception to that rule. The Outlook sync doesn't break that rule. You should be keying in as much of the data as possible, whether it be new contacts, new appointments, right? Any of that type of stuff should go into OfficeTools first. So as we build on this idea, I want you to keep that in mind. So when we're talking about contacts, we're linking up your contact list that you have inside of OfficeTools into your contact list inside of Outlook. Now, when it really boils down to it, if you guys are not syncing to your phone, you do not need to run a lot of these integrations, right? You don't need to run the contact integration, the task integration, because you're not pushing it to your phone. Everything is going to be on your desktop. Therefore, you don't need to duplicate your lists in both spots. There's not a lot of reason to have a contact list in OfficeTools and another contact list inside of Outlook if you're not going to be pushing it to your phone and trying to get access to it elsewhere. Otherwise, you're just managing 2 desktop applications. And we can access email addresses and stuff like that from OfficeTools, so you don't really need the contact data inside of Outlook. So it's building in the best practice as we go here. But when it comes to the contact list, here's kind of the idea. We don't recommend that you sync with your current contact list. That's not going to be recommended, right? So if you're not already syncing with Outlook, we're not expecting you to come in here and actually link up to your real contact list that you already have inside of Outlook, because there's no match tool between OfficeTools and Outlook. Okay? Meaning that if you did link up to your actual contact list and you pulled the contact information in, or you pushed contact information out from OfficeTools or to OfficeTools, you will end up with a ton of duplicates. Okay? Duplicates, every single contact will be a duplicate, because again, there's no match. So it's not going to find a contact that's the same. It's not going to know that it's the same. So it's not going to ever be linked up. Therefore, when you guys are going into your Outlook sync, we recommend that you create a new contact folder if you're going to be doing the contact sync. So just go into your Outlook, right click on your contacts folder, and then hit new folder and call it OfficeTools Contacts, for example. Right? So go in, right click, new folder, and create a new contacts folder. Then once you do that, you can come in here and actually link up with the contacts folder that you just created, and you would be able to choose whatever that might be. So for example, we chose this one here called Test Contacts. So it's not my real contact list. It's a fake contact list that I created to allow OfficeTools to push that data in. That way it keeps it nice and clean. And again, all of your data should then be entered into OfficeTools first. Then it could be pushed into Outlook. And then at that point, obviously, you'd be trying to pull it into your phone. So step one is, when you go to the options button right next to contacts, is to link it up with the appropriate Outlook folder. And that would be the contacts folder that we just talked about. Right? You created a new contacts folder, and now you're going to link up to it. You also have a couple different options about filtering down to specific contacts. So if you only want specific contacts for specific contact groups, if you only want specific account managers, if you only want specific contact types, you only want your clients. If you only want individuals or corporations, right? You can pick and choose down the list here of individual types of contacts that you'd like to sync to your phone. And if you have multi-office by any chance, you can also decide which offices you would like to sync the contacts for. Then down here at the bottom, we have sync alt contacts and sync dependents. Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, to jump back 1 second. Most of the time, just to be real with you guys, these are all left blank. You're not going to filter out contacts in most cases. The only one that's typically used would be account manager. That way, each individual partner or owner that you guys have, whatever it might be, can get just their contacts instead of all the clients. Okay. So this is a way of filtering down. Like I said, most of the time that's left blank. But the only one that's typically used, if I do see it used, would be the account manager option. Down here at the bottom, sync alt contacts and sync dependents. If you guys are familiar with OfficeTools, which you should be at this point, we do have two different types of contacts called alternate contacts and dependents. Those are located under a main entity. So for example, if you have a husband and a wife, you might have Smith, John, and Jane. Well, John would be the main taxpayer in that example that I just gave you. Jane would be the spouse, and the spouse is technically going to be listed as a dependent. Okay. Or if you have an alternate contact, let's just say a business like OfficeTools, and you're dealing with two different trainers. Well, one of the trainers would end up being the main contact, and the other trainer would end up being an alternate contact, right? So there are all these types of contacts built in under one main contact, and this is asking you if you would like to sync those into Outlook as well. Most of the time, given the database, you do end up having those two checked. That way you get a contact record in Outlook for each of the contacts that you have in OfficeTools. Even if it's a husband and a wife or two different trainers, you'll get all of those contacts. Now, most importantly, and this is going to be across the board for all of these, allow Outlook to. This is talking about what access we want to give to Outlook to basically attach into OfficeTools. This is if you're going to break the cardinal rule of all information going into OfficeTools first. If you're not going to abide by that and you want to put information into Outlook first, then this is the options that you have here. Allow Outlook to add contacts, allow Outlook to update contacts, and allow Outlook to delete contacts. If you are not going to listen to me and you're going to decide to input information into Outlook first, then I'm going to tell you right now, in order to save yourself a lot of trouble, make sure to uncheck delete just as it is on screen. Okay? Because if you're not going to listen to me, at least do me a favor and uncheck delete. That way, if anything does happen inside of Outlook, whether it be by accident or on your phone, your kid grabs it, starts deleting things, or whatever it might be, that's not being reflected back into OfficeTools. The worst case scenario is that you accidentally do something, say, on your phone, and don't realize that that's actually carrying through all the way to OfficeTools. Okay? So, and when it really boils down to it, guys, if you're going to use this and you're going to allow Outlook to update information into OfficeTools, I highly recommend, highly, almost to the point of saying that we should hide this button, turn off delete. And that's going to go across the board. Okay? And that's basically contacts. So effectively, when you're in here, you're going to just be choosing your folder that you want to link up to, the new folder that you created called OfficeTools Contacts. You're going to decide whether you want your alts and dependents, and you're going to make sure that delete is turned off at least, if not all three. Okay? There are some more advanced options like mapping fields. If you guys think that that might be necessary, contact us. That allows you to say basically what fields are what, because Outlook uses information a lot differently. A lot of times you're not storing the right information in the right field in Outlook. We can help with that with field mappings, pointing specific things to specific things, but that's typically going to be more of an advanced option, okay? So other than that, guys, that's basically contacts. Once you have your folder selected, you've made sure delete is off, you've decided whether you want to sync alts and dependents, you just click OK. Then you would need to switch your contacts from off to on, the little switch right there. Okay. And that's contacts. When it really boils down to it, guys, that's the third thing that people use, right? It's not the first. It's not what we recommend using it for. Most of the time, we're going to try to tell you that you don't need to do that if you get on the phone with a trainer. It's going to be something where we try to say, you know what, contacts are probably not going to be something you want to focus on, and we'll try our best to talk you out of it unless you have good enough reasons to say, you know, this is why. We'll be like, okay, but ultimately, contacts not as important as other pieces. Next, we have tasks, and the process is going to start looking very familiar. All right, and the way that these are going to work is going to be very familiar. Now, just to underlie this, we're going to start building in do's and don'ts. We do not recommend that you do tasks because Outlook only has one type of task, whereas OfficeTools technically has 3 different types of tasks. Therefore, when you sync back and forth, you're going to end up with muddied information that might be hard to distinguish. Okay, because you'll notice OfficeTools has calls, to-dos, and assignments, whereas Outlook only has tasks. If you're dead set on syncing tasks, however, it's going to be the same process. You're going to link up with a folder. And again, just like we recommended in the contacts area, we're going to recommend inside of here that you do link up with a brand new task folder. Again, because even in the tasks area, we recommend that you always start in OfficeTools first. Right? Remember that. I'm going to repeat it 4 times for you today on each of the different tabs that we're going through here. OfficeTools should be your central hub. Enter in your information into OfficeTools first. Okay? So you would pick your folder here. We'll just call it the training tasks option there. And then you can sync specific types of assignments. So this is getting into the project. If you only wanted your unprocessed projects to show up in Outlook, well, you can choose that. If you only wanted your missing information projects to sync into Outlook, then you could do that. So you're choosing which assignments you'd like OfficeTools to sync into Outlook. Okay. You can also choose a selection if you would like using your ellipsis button. Typically, if you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing it for everything. You're not going to be filtering down. Okay, so most of the time, you don't need to worry about this. Next, we have sync tasks from. This is the date in which you want to start syncing these tasks. Typically, when you're turning the sync on, you're only going to want to sync tasks that are from the day that you're syncing forward. You're not going to want to go backwards. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of tasks in OfficeTools that need to be completed, and it won't make much sense. So typically, you're going to start from the day that you're actually hooking up the Outlook sync. Sync completed tasks, definitely don't want to do that because that'll sync everything that's been completed already. And that can get really difficult to manage. Sync the following tasks, calls, to-dos, and assignments. These are the different types of tasks within OfficeTools that you want to sync to Outlook. This is for loadability. You use Unicode checkboxes. It just makes it easier across the board to make sure that things are being able to be completed. Just leave that one checked. Most of the time it's going to be applicable unless you specifically know that you don't need it, at which point go ahead and uncheck it. But it's going to apply to 95% of people. And then again, we have allow Outlook to. And what's our rule here? We're not going to allow it to delete. Okay. So again, just like with contacts, we choose our folder. A little bit new concept here. We choose a date. We decide what we want to sync. And that's it. Okay, switch that on. That's the fourth thing that people use. 97, 98, 99% of the time, variance right there. People are not using the tasks. It becomes too muddied. It clutters things up. It doesn't allow for distinguishing between different types of tasks. So ultimately, we recommend leaving that one off. Now we come to the main event here, the schedule tab. This is the number one reason why we provided the Outlook sync. This is why the Outlook sync is so important. This is what we meant it to be used for. The schedule area allows you to sync your OfficeTools calendar to your Outlook so then you can get it on your phone. Because we do not provide a mobile application currently, although again we are building one, this allows the connectivity that we needed. The schedule tab is the purpose of the Outlook sync integration. So inside of here, it's really straightforward. There's only a few options. You're going to choose the calendar. Now, unlike contacts and tasks here, we are going to recommend that you link directly to your actual calendar. So that way you can get your appointments. Most of the time people have appointments booked out for a while. We're going to want you to link to your actual Outlook calendar here. Okay. So pick the right one. Next is where you sync your appointments. You're going to tell us when. Now, just like tasks, we're going to recommend that you don't go backwards, that you're typically going to start with the date that you're hooking it up. That way you're not running into a scenario where you're getting a ton of old appointments coming into OfficeTools and you're having to complete them. Okay, so just start from that day forward. And you come back to allow Outlook to. Now, this is the debatable one. I still hold true that you should not allow Outlook to delete appointments. Some people have good cases for it. Most people don't. Even if the appointment is canceled or it's no longer going to happen, we recommend that you do not allow Outlook to delete it. Just go into OfficeTools and mark it canceled. Okay. The more control you allow Outlook to have on OfficeTools, the worse off you're going to be. Okay. So inside of here, you're going to link it up to the proper calendar. You're going to link it up for the proper date. And then again, I recommend unchecking delete. And that's all you really have to do. That connects it. Okay, you switch that on. Now it should start pushing information into Outlook. There's one major thing about the schedule area that I do want to bring up. If you decide to, again, be a rebel and key in information into Outlook first, you're going to run into a specific scenario with the schedule tab that I want to bring you guys up to speed on so you know to expect it. If you decide to go into Outlook and create an appointment, whether it be on your phone or whatever it is, which is a valid reason, okay? It's a valid thing that's going to happen. You're out of the office, you're in the field, you're at home. You remember, hey, I got to have that appointment going on tomorrow at 10. You go onto your phone to schedule it. Now, the main difference and the reason why OfficeTools is so important to put in the information first is that Outlook does not require contact information. When you schedule an appointment, you're not attaching it to a client. So when it comes into OfficeTools, if you did it in Outlook first, it doesn't know which client to attach to. So instead, it sticks it under the unspecified contact, which all of you will have. If you guys don't know, it's at the very top of your list. Okay. And it's going to attach it there. So it's not going to know what contact to come into, so it's going to pull it in onto the schedule. It's going to block it off on the right time. Any notes that you have are going to be pulled in. It's going to have all the information. It's just not going to be attached to the right client, which is half of the point of using the OfficeTools schedule. So what you want to make sure of, if you do happen to do this, where you put an appointment on the schedule first inside of Outlook, come into OfficeTools and make sure that you open that appointment and plug it in under the right client. You guys should know how to do that by now. Okay, so just double click on your appointment, open it up, change the client, and that should fix the problem. But just understand and know to expect that when you put an appointment into Outlook first and it comes into OfficeTools, it's not going to know the client that it's supposed to attach to. So just keep that in mind. Last but not least, we have the mail import. This, again, I highly recommend that you do not use. This is the number 2 thing I would say that people do use, however. But most of the time, it's easier to just drag an email right out of Outlook and drop it into OfficeTools. And if you don't know how to do that, I recommend just reaching out to us. Just drag it right out of your inbox, right into OfficeTools, and attach it to the Documents tab. Pretty straightforward. If you do want to sync, however, then there's quite a few options in here, but we're going to boil this down because we are coming close on our time here. You do want to make sure that you specify an inbox and an outbox or sent items for the sync to manage. Okay? So point it to your inbox and point it to your sent items box under the appropriate label. That way we bring in both emails that have been received and emails that you have sent. So that's what those two are for. This is to choose specific email addresses. No one does that. Same thing for this. This is to choose, this is import, and this is who you do not want to import. So if there's specific email addresses you don't want to bring in, you can label them here. And then you can also do contact groups. Again, if you're doing this, you're not selecting these. These are going to be empty. Import unread mail. Normally you want to turn that off. Okay. Most of the time before it syncs into OfficeTools, you want to read it inside of Outlook. So most of the time people are going to turn off the option that says import unread mail. You definitely don't want to import all of the unknown emails into unspecified, because that'll include all of your junk emails, that'll include all your personal emails. Anything that cannot find an email address match will be imported under unspecified. And honestly, there's just not a lot of reason to do that. Okay? It's just going to muddy it up. It's going to clog up the document system. It's going to make it impossible to manage. And everybody's emails are going to be sucked into unspecified if there's no email address match. So if you're going to do this at all, make sure to uncheck the box here that says import unknown. Okay. Then you have the option of choosing the range as to how far back the emails are going to be pulled in. Normally you're going to do 1 day. Okay? That's how it's preset. It's only ever going to go back to yesterday to pull in emails, which is fine once you sync, because it'll pull in emails every single day. Okay? But if you do want to do some sort of date range, then you can come in here and specify a start and end time, and that'll control how far back Outlook goes to get the emails. And then last but not least, you're going to choose your categories for your inbox and your sent items. And those should match up with what's already in there. Email sent, email received. There should be another one in there somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe it was deleted. But you should see in yours, email sent, email received. Oh yeah, it's right there. Okay. Those come defaulted. Make sure to choose inbox, email received, outbox, email sent. That way they're categorized correctly inside of OfficeTools document management. And then last but not least, delete from Outlook after import. Most people are not brave enough to turn this on. However, it can be a useful tool if you're trying to keep your inbox healthy. When an email is brought into OfficeTools, it can delete it out of that inbox. That way you're not having a bunch of extra emails inside of there. When an email is brought in to the Documents tab from Outlook, whether you do it via drag and drop or through the Outlook sync, it is a .msg file, meaning when you open that file, it opens in Outlook. So all attachments are still there. You can still respond to it. You can still forward it. It opens in Outlook. Okay? So it's not like it creates a PDF or anything like that. It's still an actionable document. So you don't technically need it inside of Outlook. It'll be inside of OfficeTools as an Outlook file. So once you have that selected, your inbox, your sent items, time frame in which you want to bring it in, you've made sure that import unknown is unchecked. You got your categories in there. Then you just switch that on as well. And here's the thing. We're going to wrap up with this, guys. And I'm sorry I didn't get to your questions, so please email your questions into training@officetools.com. Okay, if I didn't get to them, please just shoot them over. The thing I'm going to end with on this is twofold. Number one, the Outlook sync is not global. So when you set it up on a computer, it's setting it up for that computer, that user, that staff member. Okay? You don't set it up once and then it's set up for everyone. Each person who's going to run the sync tool will need to have the Outlook sync installed on their computer and go through the setup process on that computer. Which means that each person, each staff, can actually have different components of the sync running. So if you have a receptionist, right, sitting up at the front desk who doesn't really have appointments, who's not really receiving emails directly, they don't need to run the sync. But the partner who's got all the scheduled appointments, he has all these emails coming in, then that would be a good reason to run the sync on their computer. Okay? So you can pick and choose, and I want you to remember that, because a lot of people call in, they say, well, we set up the sync, but it's not running, we're not getting this person's schedule on their into their Outlook. That's probably because the sync tool is not running on their computer. And secondly, along with that, is that the sync tool, once it's set up, is going to run in the background, meaning that you don't need to process it, you don't need to sync it. OfficeTools will automatically be running that sync in the background, and as things are added into OfficeTools, hopefully, contacts, mail, appointments, whatever it is, they'll be automatically synced into Outlook. Nothing else that you have to do once you set it up. And every time that you open up Windows, the sync should automatically start. If for whatever reason things aren't syncing in and you're like, I'm not understanding why my appointments aren't going over, if you're not sure if the sync is running, you can always go double check in your system tray. As long as you see your yellow icons there, then the sync tool should be running and everything should be automatically being pushed. Okay, so to recap a little bit here before we hang up here, typically through the sync, you're going to be running schedule. That's the reason for it. That's what we recommend that you use this for. We're not really recommending that you use it for contacts. We're not really recommending that you're using it for tasks or for mail import. Typically, we're going to try to isolate you into using this sync tool for the schedule because that's where it's useful. Everything else can get a little muddy. Each person that runs the sync can control which components that they turn on or off. And it will need to be installed on each staff member's workstation who needs the sync tool. Once you guys get it all set up and everything's turned on, it should automatically run in the background and you guys should be good to go. Okay, we are a few minutes over, even past the extra time that we allotted. Any questions that you guys have, please feel free to shoot it to us. Training@OfficeTools.com. We'll answer those questions. I'll make sure to prioritize them, shoot those in today, and I'll get you guys squared away. Other than that, take a look at the upcoming webinar schedule, see what we have coming up on the slate. There's a lot of good topics leading up to tax season here. We're trying to get you guys geared up and ready to go. So please, please, please take a look at those. Jump online and make sure to be a part of this. Anything that you guys are curious about, take a look at the past webinars. Those are all recorded, and you guys can go back and watch those as many times as you'd like to make sure that you guys are getting the most out of your OfficeTools program. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns that you guys have on anything, again, training@OfficeTools.com. Please email us. Other than that, thank you guys for being patient with us. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.